Daniel Carter never liked surprises. He had come to Colony Vega 6 for a peaceful life, working as an engineer. His job was simple: fix broken machines, keep the power running, and stay out of trouble. Humans were a small part of the galaxy, and most aliens barely noticed them. That was fine with Daniel. He didn't want adventure. But fate had other plans. It all started with a knock on his door. It was late, and Daniel was just finishing his meal when he heard it. A weak, hurried knock. That was strange. Nobody ever visited him. He lived in the outer district of the colony, where it was quiet. Curious, he walked to the door and pressed the small security scanner. The screen flickered to life, showing a blurry figure in the dim light. A hooded person stood outside, breathing heavily. Something about their posture seemed desperate. Daniel hesitated. He wasn't in the habit of opening his door for strangers, especially not at this hour. But before he could decide, the person swayed and collapsed. "Oh, great," Daniel muttered. He sighed and pressed the door's unlock button. The metal panel slid open with a soft hiss. Bending down, he carefully turned the figure over and froze. Under the hood was a face he had never expected to see. She was alien. Her skin had a soft, silvery glow, her features delicate and sharp. Two thin tendrils extended from behind her ears, twitching slightly as she breathed. But what struck him the most were her eyes. Large, deep violet, filled with exhaustion and fear. "Help," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Daniel's mind raced. He had seen her species before in colony records. She was Scifi, one of the most advanced but secretive alien races in the galaxy. The Scifi rarely interacted with humans. In fact, they avoided them. So why was one of them here? And why did she look like she was running for her life? Daniel sighed again, this time in frustration. He knew this was a bad idea. He knew he should just call security and let them handle it. But then he saw the faint burn marks on her arms, the torn fabric of her cloak, and the way she was struggling to stay conscious. Someone had hurt her. He made his decision. "All right, come on," he said, lifting her carefully. She was lighter than he expected. He carried her inside and shut the door, locking it behind him. A dangerous situation. Daniel placed her on his old couch and grabbed his medical kit. He wasn't a doctor, but he knew enough to treat minor injuries. As he cleaned the burns on her arm, she flinched but didn't wake up. He had so many questions, but for now, all he could do was wait. Minutes passed. Then, suddenly, her eyes fluttered open. She gasped and tried to sit up, but Daniel held up his hands. "Easy, easy. You're safe. No one's here except me." She blinked at him, still breathing hard. "Where am I?" "My home." "In Colony Vega 6, Daniel said. He handed her a small water bottle. "You look like you've been through hell. Want to tell me what's going on?" She hesitated, her violet eyes studying him. Then, slowly, she took the water and sipped. "My name is Nira," she finally said. I need your help." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Lady, I don't know what kind of help you think I can give, but I'm just an engineer. I fix machines, not people." Nira shook her head. "It's not that simple." She glanced toward the door, as if expecting someone to burst in any second. "They're coming for me." Daniel frowned. "Who?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "The Galactic Order." Daniel's stomach dropped. The Galactic Order was the most powerful force in the known universe. If they were after her, that meant one thing. She was in serious trouble. And now, so was he. The choice. Daniel rubbed his face. "Great, just great. You're telling me the most powerful organization in the galaxy wants you, and you showed up at my doorstep. Do you know what happens to humans who get in the way of the Order?" Nira's expression darkened. "They don't just want me. They want to silence me." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "Why?" She hesitated. Then, in a soft but firm voice, she said, "Because I know the truth about them. And I can prove it." The room fell into silence. Daniel looked at her, trying to decide if he had just made the worst mistake of his life by letting her in. Outside, in the distance, a faint red light flickered in the sky, a sign of incoming ships. Time was running out. Daniel took a deep breath. He had two choices: hand her over and stay safe, or take a risk and help her. Finally, he looked at Nira. "All right, what do we do now?" Nira's tense expression softened. For the first time that night, she smiled. "We run." Daniel Carter had always avoided trouble. He liked fixing machines, drinking his coffee in peace, and staying away from things that didn't concern him. But now, standing in his small home with a fugitive auxiliary alien sitting on his couch, he knew he had just walked straight into the worst kind of trouble. Outside, the faint red lights in the sky blinked again. Ships, they were coming. He turned to Nira. "You said the Galactic Order is after you. How long do we have?" Nira's violet eyes darkened. "Not long. They will search the colony soon." Daniel cursed under his breath. The Galactic Order was known for its efficiency. If they were coming, it meant every scanner, every security camera, and every officer in Colony Vega 6 would be looking for her soon. If she was caught, she wouldn't just be arrested, she would disappear. And if he was caught helping her, he didn't even want to think about that. He grabbed his small backpack and started stuffing essentials inside. "All right, we need to leave. Now." Nira stood up, swaying slightly. She was still weak. Daniel quickly reached out to steady her. "Are you sure you can move?" She nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. "I have to." Daniel sighed. "Figures. All right. Let's go." He opened the door slowly, peeking outside. The colony streets were dimly lit, the artificial sky glowing with soft blue light. At first glance, everything seemed normal. People walked the streets, neon signs flickered, and distant music played from a bar. But then he saw them. Dark figures moving in the shadows. Galactic Order officers. They were already searching. No time left. Daniel pulled Nira's hood over her head and led her out into the night, through the underground. They moved quickly through the back alleys, avoiding security cameras and patrols. Daniel knew the colony well. He had lived here for years. He led Nira through side streets, past abandoned buildings, and finally to a rusted metal hatch near an old supply station. He knelt down and pried it open. "This leads to the underground tunnels. It's our best chance." Nira hesitated. "What if they find us?" Daniel gave her a small smirk. "Then we run faster." She sighed but followed him down the metal ladder. The tunnels were dark and smelled of oil and damp metal. It wasn't the best escape route, but it would keep them hidden. They moved carefully, Daniel leading the way with a small flashlight. The tunnel stretched for miles beneath the colony, a forgotten maze of old transport routes and abandoned storage areas. For a few minutes, everything was silent except for their footsteps. Then suddenly, a voice echoed through the tunnel walls. "Attention, citizens of Vega 6. A dangerous fugitive has been spotted in this area. If you see anything suspicious, report immediately." The announcement was calm, but the message was clear. The order was tightening its grip. Daniel clenched his jaw. "They're getting serious." Nira's face was tense. They always do. They kept moving. The first encounter. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a junction where the tunnel split into 3 paths. Daniel was about to choose when he heard it. Footsteps. Someone was coming. Nira tensed. "They're here." Daniel quickly pulled her into a side passage, pressing them both against the cold metal wall. The footsteps grew louder. Then, the shadows moved. 3 Order enforcers stepped into view. They wore sleek black armor with glowing blue visors, their weapons humming softly with energy. They moved with precision, scanning the tunnels with advanced sensors. Daniel barely breathed. If they were caught, it was over. One of the enforcers stopped, looking directly at their hiding spot. Daniel's heart pounded. Had they been seen? The enforcer took a step closer. Nara's fingers tightened around Daniel's wrist. He could feel her pulse, fast, almost panicked. The enforcer reached for his communicator. Sector 4 clear. Moving to next point. And just like that, they turned and walked away. Daniel let out a slow breath. That was too close. Nira whispered, "We can't stay here. We need to keep moving." Daniel nodded. "Yeah. And I think I know where we need to go. A dangerous escape. The only safe place left was outside the colony. But that meant reaching the docking bay. And stealing a ship. Daniel knew a guy. An old mechanic named Travis, who owed him a few favors. If they could reach his hangar, they might have a chance. But the order wasn't slowing down. As they emerged from the tunnels, sirens blared in the distance. Searchlights swept the streets. Nira pulled her hood lower. They're everywhere. Daniel took a deep breath. Then we don't stop moving. They ran. Through back alleys, over fences, and past security checkpoints. Every second felt like an eternity. Every shadow felt like a trap. But somehow, they made it. The hangar was just ahead. Daniel knocked on the metal door. "Travis, open up. It's me." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the door slid open, revealing an old man with grease-stained clothes and sharp eyes. "Daniel, what the hell?" Daniel pushed inside, dragging Nira with him. "No time to explain. We need a ship. Now." Travis raised an eyebrow. Then he noticed Nira. His expression darkened. "Oh, you're in deep trouble, aren't you?" Daniel exhaled. "Yeah. So, are you helping or not?" Travis sighed, rubbing his temples. Then, without another word, he walked toward the nearest ship. "I hope you know what you're doing, kid." Daniel glanced at Nira. "Me too." The air inside Travis's hangar smelled like engine oil and burnt metal. Dim lights flickered, casting long shadows over the half-repaired ships scattered around. The old mechanic stood with his arms crossed, staring at Daniel and Nira with a frown. "So let me get this straight," Travis said, rubbing his temples. "You brought a wanted fugitive, an alien, no less, to my hangar with the entire galactic order looking for her." Daniel sighed. "Yeah, that about sums it up." Travis shook his head. "You've got a death wish, kid." "Not if we get out of here first," Daniel replied. "We need a ship, something small and fast." Travis studied him for a long moment, then glanced at Nira. She was leaning against a crate, still weak but alert. Her violet eyes met his, and something in her gaze made him pause. Finally, he grumbled, "Follow me." A ship and a problem. Travis led them to the far end of the hangar, where a sleek, black and silver starship rested on a repair platform. Its smooth surface gleamed under the lights, and its thrusters looked brand new. "This is the Shadow Dancer," Travis said, patting the hull. "Fast, stealthy, and tough. If you're lucky, it might just get you out of here alive." Daniel inspected the ship. "Looks perfect." Travis held up a hand. "Not so fast. There's a problem." Daniel groaned. "There's always a problem." Travis nodded. "The fuel core isn't fully charged. You'll only get about half a system jump before you need to stop and recharge." Daniel looked at Nira. "Is that enough to get us away from the order?" She hesitated. "Maybe. But we need to reach a safe zone, or it won't matter." Travis sighed. "Listen, I can get the core charged in a few hours, but you don't have that kind of time. The order will check this hangar soon." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. They needed another plan. That's when Nira spoke. "We don't just need to escape. We need to expose the truth." Daniel frowned. "What are you talking about?" She took a deep breath. "The reason the order is after me is because I know something they don't want anyone to hear. The truth about the order." Nira stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "The Galactic Order controls the major species in the galaxy, including the Dixilari. They say they protect peace, but the truth is, they control information. They choose who rises and who falls. They decide what species are important and which ones should stay silent." Daniel listened carefully. "And what does that have to do with you?" Nara hesitated, then said, "I worked for the Order once. I was a researcher, and I discovered something about humanity." Daniel's breath caught. "What about us?" Nara's violet eyes locked onto his. "Humans aren't supposed to be part of the galactic stage yet. According to the Order, your kind is unfit for major influence. But I found evidence that humans are advancing faster than expected. Your technology, your adaptability, your ability to resist control. The Order sees that as a threat." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. "So they want to keep us in our place?" Nira nodded. "Yes, and when I tried to tell the truth, they turned me into a fugitive." Daniel let out a slow breath. This was bigger than just escaping. Travis whistled. "Well, kid, looks like you're not just running anymore. You're starting a fight." Daniel looked at Nira. "If what you're saying is true, we can't just run. We have to get this information out." Nira nodded. "Exactly. We need to reach a communication hub, one outside the Order's control. If we can broadcast the truth, the galaxy will know." Daniel clenched his fists. He had started this night as a simple engineer. Now he was about to go against the most powerful force in the universe. Great, just great. A risky escape. Travis sighed. "All right, if you two are serious about this, I'll help. But we need to be smart." He pointed at a cargo transport sitting at the edge of the hangar. "That transport is scheduled to leave in 20 minutes. If you sneak inside, it can take you past the colony's security zone. After that, you'll have to steal a ship from the outer docks." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "And you're just giving us this plan out of the kindness of your heart." Travis smirked. "Kid, I like chaos. And if you two actually pull this off, the whole galaxy is gonna lose its mind." "That sounds fun to me." Daniel chuckled. "You're insane." "I know," Travis said with a grin. Nara looked at the transport and nodded. "It's risky, but it's our best chance." Travis handed Daniel a small device. "This is a temporary jammer. It'll block scanners for about 5 minutes. Use it wisely." Daniel took it. "Thanks, old man." Travis waved them off. "Don't thank me yet. You still have to survive." The final run. With no time to waste, Daniel and Nira crept toward the transport. The loading bay was busy with workers moving crates, making it easier to blend in. Nira pulled her hood lower, her posture tense. "Are you sure about this?" Daniel smirked. "Nope, but we're doing it anyway." As the final crates were loaded, they slipped inside the cargo hold, hiding between the storage containers. Seconds later, the doors shut. The transport rumbled to life, lifting off the ground. As they felt the ship rise, Daniel exhaled. They had made it this far. But the real challenge was just beginning. Because now, they weren't just running. They were fighting back. The cargo transport rumbled as it lifted off from the colony. Inside the dark cargo hold, Daniel and Nira crouched between metal crates, their bodies tense. The sound of engines filled the air, drowning out everything else. Daniel glanced at Nira. "We made it this far. Now what?" Nira pressed a hand against the cold metal floor, feeling the vibrations. "We wait. Once we leave the colony's security zone, we find a way out." Daniel exhaled. "Great. Just hope no one decides to check this cargo." But as soon as he said that, a new sound echoed through the hold. A mechanical hiss. A door was opening. Trouble in the cargo hold. Daniel's heart pounded. He peeked through a gap between the crates and saw 2 men in Order uniforms stepping inside. They carried scanners, their glowing screens sweeping over the cargo. They were checking for stowaways. Daniel's grip tightened around the small jammer device Travis had given him. It could block scanners, but only for 5 minutes. He turned to Nira and whispered, "We need to time this perfectly." Nira nodded, her violet eyes sharp. She watched as the officers moved closer, their scanners beeping softly. Any second now. The nearest officer pointed his scanner at their hiding spot. The screen flashed red. They had been detected. Without hesitation, Daniel pressed the jammer's button. A faint pulse of blue light spread through the hold. The officer's scanners flickered and shut off. The taller officer cursed, "Damn thing's malfunctioning." The other officer sighed, "Typical old tech. Let's report this and get out of here." They turned and exited the hold, the door hissing shut behind them. Daniel let out a slow breath. That was close. Nira nodded. "Too close. We need to move before they check again." Breaking out, Daniel scanned the cargo hold, looking for an escape route. Then he spotted it, a maintenance hatch near the ceiling. "There," he whispered. "That leads to the ship's outer hull. We can get to the docking bay from there." Nira followed his gaze. "Let's go." They climbed onto the crates, moving carefully to avoid noise. Daniel reached the hatch and twisted the lock. It was stiff, but with one strong pull, it popped open. Cool air rushed in as they climbed through, emerging onto a narrow walkway above the transport's engine room. Below them, technicians worked, unaware of their presence. Daniel leaned close to Nira. "We need to get to the docking bay without being seen." She nodded. "I have an idea." Nira reached into her pocket and pulled out a small holographic device. She tapped it, and a faint blue light flickered. A holographic projection of a maintenance alert appeared in the air. She quickly programmed it to appear on the technicians' monitors. A few seconds later, alarms blared. "Emergency system failure in Sector B7. Immediate repair required." The technicians muttered curses and rushed toward the fake alert. Daniel smirked. That was clever. Nira grinned. "Come on." Stealing a ship. They moved quickly through the ship's corridors, avoiding patrols. Finally, they reached the docking bay, where small transport ships were stored. Daniel scanned the area. "Which one do we take?" Nira pointed to a sleek, white fighter craft at the far end. "That one. It's fast and has stealth capabilities." Daniel frowned. "It's also locked." Nira smirked. "Not for long." She placed her hand on the ship's control panel. Her fingers moved quickly over the screen, bypassing security codes. A few tense seconds later, the ship's engines hummed to life. Daniel grinned. "You are full of surprises." Nira motioned for him to get inside. "Hurry. The Order will realize something is wrong soon." Just as they climbed into the cockpit, an alarm blared. Unauthorized ship activation detected. Security lockdown engaged. Daniel cursed. "We need to launch. Now." Nira's hands flew over the controls. The ship's thrusters roared to life. The docking bay doors began to close, trying to trap them inside. "Hold on," Nira shouted. The ship blasted forward, slipping through the narrowing gap just in time. They were free. The pursuit. As soon as they entered open space, warning lights flashed on the control panel. Nira's expression turned serious. "We have company." Daniel looked at the radar. 2 Galactic Order ships were on their tail. A voice crackled over the communicator. "Unidentified vessel, you are ordered to power down and surrender." Daniel smirked. "Not happening." Nira pushed the thrusters to full power. The ship shot forward, dodging enemy fire. The enemy ships followed, lasers lighting up the dark sky. Daniel gripped the co-pilot controls. "Tell me this thing has weapons." Nira flipped a switch. "It does now." Small cannons emerged from the ship's sides. Daniel aimed and fired. Bright blue energy bolts shot through space, forcing the enemy ships to dodge. But the Order pilots were skilled. They stayed on their tail. Nira's hands tightened on the controls. "We need an escape route." Daniel scanned the sensors. There's an asteroid field nearby. Nira nodded. Hold on. She turned the ship sharply, diving into the asteroid field. The rocks floated in space, spinning unpredictably. The order ships hesitated before following. Daniel grinned. They're not crazy enough to chase us in here. But then, one of the enemy ships followed. Nira cursed. Looks like they are. The enemy fighter weaved through the asteroids, firing rapidly. Daniel and Nira dodged left and right, barely avoiding the deadly blasts. Then suddenly, Nira spun the ship sideways and flew between two massive asteroids. The enemy pilot tried to follow, but was too slow. The asteroid smashed into their ship, sending them spinning out of control. Daniel cheered. That was insane. Nira exhaled. We're not safe yet. We need to find a place to hide and refuel. Daniel checked the star map. There's a small moon nearby. We can land there. Nira nodded. Then let's go. As their ship sped toward the moon, Daniel knew one thing for sure. The fight was far from over. But for the first time, he wasn't just running. He was fighting back. The ship shook as it entered the thin atmosphere of the small, uncharted moon. Dark clouds swirled above a rocky landscape below. Daniel gripped the sides of his seat as Nira expertly maneuvered the ship through the rough winds. Are you sure this place is safe? Daniel asked, eyes fixed on the approaching surface. Nira nodded, her hand steady on the controls. It's not on any official star maps. The Order won't find us here. At least, not right away. The ship touched down on a flat, rocky plain. Dust rose around them as the engines cooled. The moment the hum of the thrusters faded, the silence of the moon surrounded them. Daniel unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up. All right. First things first. We need to check the ship. Nira agreed. If we don't fix the damage from that chase, we won't be going anywhere. They stepped outside into the cold, thin air. The sky above was filled with swirling gray clouds, blocking the view of the stars. Strange blue plants grew between the rocks, glowing faintly in the dim light. Daniel ran his hand over the ship's hull, checking for damage. There was a deep burn mark on the side. Looks like one of their shots hit our stabilizer. Daniel muttered. We'll need to fix it before we can take off again. Nira crouched next to the ship, inspecting the thrusters. We also need fuel. We used up most of it escaping. Daniel sighed. Great. So how do we find fuel on a dead moon? Nira stood up, pointing at the glowing blue plants. These aren't just plants. They produce an energy-rich liquid. If we collect enough, we can refine it into usable fuel. Daniel raised an eyebrow. You're telling me we're gonna fuel our ship with glowing space plants? Nira smirked. Trust me, it works. Daniel shrugged. All right, let's get to work. Gathering the fuel, they grabbed a few empty containers from the ship and started collecting the glowing blue liquid from the plants. As Nira had said, the plants secreted a thick, shimmering substance that pulsed with energy. Daniel filled a container and held it up to the light. This stuff looks like liquid lightning. Nira nodded. It's highly reactive. That's why we have to be careful refining it. They worked quickly, gathering as much as they could. The process was slow, but after an hour, they had enough for a partial refill. As Daniel sealed the last container, he noticed something in the distance, strange markings on a nearby rock wall. Hey, Nira, look at that. She walked over, studying the markings. They were old, carved deep into the stone, forming a pattern of symbols and shapes. Her expression darkened. These aren't natural. Someone was here before us. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. You think they're still here? Before Nira could answer, a sudden noise echoed across the landscape, a low, rumbling growl. They froze. From the shadows between the rocks, a pair of glowing yellow eyes appeared. Something was watching them. The moon's guardian. A creature stepped forward, its body covered in thick, black armor-like skin. It was massive, standing over 7 feet tall, with sharp claws and a long spiked tail. Its eyes locked onto them with an eerie intelligence. Daniel swallowed. Nira. What is that? Nira slowly reached for her sidearm. A Scyllari Guardian. This moon must be an old Scyllari outpost. Daniel's eyes widened. And let me guess, the Guardian doesn't like visitors. The creature let out a deep, guttural growl, its claws scraping against the rock. Then it charged. Daniel and Nira dived to the side as the Guardian smashed into the ground where they had been standing. Rocks shattered from the impact. Daniel rolled to his feet. I think it wants us to leave. Nira fired her weapon, but the Guardian's armored skin absorbed the shots like they were nothing. The creature turned toward her, ready to attack again. Daniel's mind raced. Think. Then he remembered the glowing liquid in their containers. He grabbed one, popped the cap, and hurled it at the creature's feet. The container exploded, sending blue flames across the ground. The Guardian roared in pain, its body twitching as the energy pulsed through it. Nira saw the opening. Run. They sprinted back toward the ship, the Guardian recovering quickly. Daniel leaped into the cockpit, flipping switches as fast as he could. The engines roared to life. Nira jumped in, sealing the hatch behind her. Go. The Guardian lunged, but it was too late. The ship lifted off, leaving the raging creature behind. Back in the air, Daniel exhaled as the ship soared through the sky. Well, that was terrifying. Nira smirked. At least we got the fuel. She moved to the control panel, working quickly to refine the liquid. After a few tense minutes, the ship's fuel gauge slowly climbed. Daniel watched the numbers rise. It's working. Nira nodded. We have just enough for a full jump. Daniel took the controls. Then let's get out of here before the order tracks us down. Nira input coordinates into the navigation system. There's a neutral station not far from here. We can rest there and figure out our next move. Daniel nodded. All right, let's do it. With a final glance at the strange, hidden moon below, he engaged the ship's hyperdrive. Stars stretched into lines as they jumped into the unknown. The fight wasn't over, but for now, they had survived. And Daniel knew one thing for sure. This adventure was only getting started. The ship emerged from hyperspace, surrounded by the vast darkness of space. Ahead, floating in the void, was Outpost Echo 17, a massive space station, its metal structure covered in neon lights and flashing signs. Daniel leaned forward, studying the station. This place looks busy. Nira nodded. It's a neutral zone. No laws, no sides. The Galactic Order won't be able to arrest us here, but that doesn't mean we're safe. Daniel sighed. Great. Another place where someone might try to kill us. Nira smirked. Welcome to space. She activated the ship's docking request. A few moments later, a robotic voice responded. Docking Bay 42 is open. Proceed with caution. Daniel guided the ship toward the docking bay, his hands steady on the controls. The station grew larger as they approached, until they finally entered through a large hangar door. The ship landed with a soft thud. They had arrived. A dangerous welcome. As the ship's ramp lowered, Daniel and Nira stepped out onto the metal floor of the hangar. The station was filled with ships of all shapes and sizes, and alien travelers moved about, talking, trading, and arguing. Daniel looked around. So, what now? Nira crossed her arms. We need supplies and information. The Order is still after us. We can't stay here long. Daniel nodded. Fine, but let's be careful. This place feels. He glanced around at the shady-looking aliens watching them. Unfriendly. As they walked toward the main marketplace, a large alien with 4 arms and green skin stepped in their path. His deep voice rumbled like thunder. You, human, you have a price on your head. Daniel's stomach dropped. Oh, come on. Already. The alien grinned, showing sharp teeth. The order is paying well for you and your friend. Give up now, and I won't break your bones." Nira's hand moved to her weapon. Not happening. The alien growled and lunged forward. The marketplace chase. Daniel barely dodged the attack. The alien's massive fist smashed into the metal floor, leaving a dent. Nira reacted fast, pulling her blaster and firing a stun shot. The alien stumbled but didn't go down. "Run!" Nira shouted. They sprinted into the crowded marketplace, pushing past traders and customers. Behind them, the bounty hunter roared in frustration and chased after them. Daniel knocked over a stack of crates to slow him down. "Where are we even going?" Nira pulled him down a side alley. "There's someone here who can help us, if he's still alive." The alley led to a small rusted door. Nira pounded on it. A voice from inside growled, "Go away." Nira kicked the door. "Travis, open up. It's me." There was a pause. Then, with a loud creak, the door opened. Inside stood a scruffy-looking man with robotic arms and a suspicious glare. He looked at Nira, then at Daniel. Well, the runaway pilot and her new friend. This should be interesting. A deal with an old friend. Travis's hideout was a small, cluttered room filled with weapons, gadgets, and blinking screens. Daniel leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "You know this guy?" Nira nodded. "We worked together once." "Travis, we need your help." Travis smirked. "You always need my help." Daniel crossed his arms. "We need a way off this station before bounty hunters or the Order catch us." Travis sat down, rubbing his chin. "I might have something. There's a cargo ship leaving in a few hours. I can get you on board." Daniel frowned. "What's the catch?" Travis grinned. "Oh, just a little favor. There's something I need you to steal." Nira sighed. "Of course there is." Travis pulled up a holographic map, pointing to a heavily guarded room. "Inside the security wing, there's a data chip. It contains valuable information. Get it for me, and I'll get you out of here." Daniel groaned. "Why is it always something dangerous?" Nira grabbed his arm. "Because nothing is easy. Let's go." The heist. Sneaking through the security corridors of Outpost Echo 17 was not easy. Guards patrolled every corner, and cameras watched every movement. Daniel and Nira hugged the shadows, waiting for the right moment. Nira whispered, "The chip is inside that room. 2 guards outside." Daniel checked his pockets. "I have an idea." He pulled out a small EMP grenade and tossed it toward the guards. BZZZT. The lights flickered, and the guards' weapons short-circuited. Nira moved fast, knocking one out while Daniel tackled the other. "Hurry," Nira said, hacking the door panel. The door slid open, revealing a small vault with the data chip inside. Daniel grabbed it. "Got it. Let's go." But just as they turned to leave, the station alarms blared. "Warning. Security Doriachish, DTECT." Daniel's eyes widened. Oh, great. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Guards were coming. They escaped. Daniel and Nira ran through the corridors, dodging laser fire. They reached Travis's hideout, banging on the door. Travis opened it, laughing. That was fast. Daniel threw the data chip at him. "Now get us out of here." Travis grinned. Already done. He pressed a button, and the wall behind him slid open, revealing a hidden passage. "This leads straight to the cargo bay. The ship is waiting." Daniel and Nira rushed through, emerging just outside a massive cargo freighter. The pilot waved at them. "You the passengers. Get in, we're leaving now." They ran up the ramp as the doors sealed shut behind them. Through a small window, Daniel saw guards arriving at the bay. Too late. The ship's engines roared to life. Daniel let out a deep breath as they finally left the station behind. They had escaped. For now, the cargo freighter drifted through space, moving farther away from Outpost Echo 17. Inside, Daniel and Nira sat in a small storage room, catching their breath. The metal walls hummed softly with the ship's engines. Daniel wiped sweat from his forehead. Okay, we actually made it. Nira leaned against a crate, still holding her blaster. For now. Daniel frowned. What do you mean? She exhaled. The order doesn't give up easily. They'll track us. We need a plan. Before Daniel could respond, the ship's intercom crackled. Attention, passengers. We have a problem. Daniel and Nira exchanged worried glances and rushed to the cockpit. The pilot, a middle-aged man with gray hair and tired eyes, pointed to the radar screen. We've got company. Daniel's stomach dropped. A fleet of order ships had appeared on the radar, moving fast. They found us. Nowhere to run. Outside the window, the Order's warships loomed closer. Their sleek, dark designs looked like predators in space. A voice crackled over the ship's comms. Unidentified freighter. This is Captain Relos of the Galactic Order. Surrender the fugitives immediately, or we will open fire. Daniel looked at Nira. I'm guessing talking isn't an option. She shook her head. Not with Relos. He's one of their best hunters. The pilot cursed under his breath. If I slow down, they'll board us. If I try to run, they'll destroy us. Daniel clenched his fists. There has to be another way. Nira's eyes flickered with an idea. There is, but it's risky. Daniel grinned. I love risky. The decoy plan. Nira pointed to the cargo bay. We have crates full of old scrap metal. Right. The pilot nodded. Yeah. Why? Nira smirked. We use them as a decoy. Open the bay doors, release the scrap, and activate the ship's emergency distress beacon. Daniel's eyes widened. You're gonna make it look like we were destroyed. She nodded. The Order will see the debris and assume we were blown up. It's our only shot. The pilot hesitated. If this doesn't work. Daniel clapped his shoulder. It will. The pilot sighed. All right, let's do it. The escape begins. The ship's alarm blared as the cargo bay doors slowly opened. Crates of metal and debris spilled into space, scattering in all directions. At the same time, the pilot triggered the distress beacon. From the outside, it looked like the ship had suffered a catastrophic explosion. The Order fleet slowed down. Relos's voice returned over the radio. What just happened? One of his officers responded. Sir, the freighter's beacon is broadcasting a distress signal. Scanners show debris. No life signs. There was a pause. Then Relos growled. Confirm it. Scan for any escape pods. Inside the freighter, Daniel whispered. Come on, come on. Fall for it. The tension was unbearable. Then, Sir, no pods detected. Looks like they're gone. Another officer added, Should we recover the wreckage? Relos was silent for a moment. Then he sighed. No, we got what we needed from the station. Let's move out. The Order ships turned and disappeared into hyperspace. Inside the freighter, Daniel exhaled in relief. They had done it. A new beginning. With the Order gone, the freighter changed course, heading toward a remote planet far from any control. The pilot smiled. You too are lucky. I know a quiet place where no one asks questions. I'll drop you off there. As the planet came into view, Daniel turned to Nira. So, what now? She thought for a moment. We lay low. We find a way to fight back. The Order isn't unstoppable. They just think they are. Daniel chuckled. You really don't give up, do you? Nira smirked. Never. The freighter descended toward their new home, disappearing into the clouds. Their adventure was just beginning.